Let's talk about the kids now. So you say, how long after you were married did Ted arrive?
2 weeks shy of our first anniversary.
And what was it like conceiving, and well, not the conception part, but giving birth to your first child?
Well, obviously, we didn't have to try. I mean, we were pregnant, and Ted was a very uncomfortable pregnancy. He was big, plus I had excess amniotic fluid, so I couldn't sit, beyond the first few months. And I didn't drive for the last 2 months because my belly was so big I couldn't reach the pedals. It was just, and then of course, I didn't have typical labor pains, and so I didn't even know I was in labor. I just knew I was sick. I felt terrible. Aunt Julie came over and said, "I think you're in labor." I said, "Nah, I don't have the labor pains." And she called the doctor, and the doctor said, "Send her in." So Dad took me in, and they said, "Oh, you better get to the hospital. You're so far effaced." And so we went over, and I remember when Dad came to pick me up, it was supper time, and it was supper time traffic. And Dad walks in with this grin on his face, and I'd been throwing up, and it was miserable. And I said, "There's nothing funny about this." So, but he was born. It was a difficult birth, but he was born at 7:47 that evening, and 9 pounds 2 ounces, screaming his head off, wanting food, I'm sure. So that was Ted. Ted, as a toddler and little child, was very bullheaded, single-minded. He didn't forget what it was he wanted. He ran the house basically for the first year, till one night, and always wanted to drink, constantly. So we would put him to bed with a bottle of milk, and within 30 seconds you'd hear some big bang in the room, and you'd hear him say, "Another bottle!" So we would run back and forth filling up this bottle, and finally we looked at each other and said, "Who the heck is running this house?" So that was the end of that. We didn't do that anymore. But he was darling, and I used to think when he wanted to do everything himself, he didn't want help with anything. From the time that he could move, he was like that. And I used to think, someday I'll be happy that he is so self-initiating. It's just a pain right now. So.
Did you ever become happy that he was?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So what about Evan? What was Evan?
What about Dad? You asked about his memories of Ted.
Yeah, pretty much the same as Mom. He was just a strong-willed child, not unlike the way he is now, right?
So growing up, what was he like outside? Once he got past infancy, toddler stage, what was he like growing up?
It was great. Ted was a great child. He did well in school, obviously. He was very smart. I mean, at 4 years old, he was doing math concepts in his head. I mean, would shock Dad and I. Got along with people, had lots of friends. Now, I don't mean to say he never did anything wrong, but when he did something wrong, he took his punishment. I remember one time, I don't know why, we grounded him, and I went to the grocery or something. He had to be about 11, And I came home and he had cleaned out the whole refrigerator. You know, taken everything out, scrubbed everything down. I mean, you know, and I came home, I was so happy that it was done. He said, "Can I have time off for good behavior?" So, he's organized other things of mine I haven't been real happy about. Like the day when he was college age, he came home and decided to rearrange my pantry. It didn't make logical sense. And anything that didn't fit into his categories, he threw out. So spices weren't in his categories. So they all got pitched. I mean, things like that. But, and as a grade schooler, he would come down as soon as he could print. And he would post at night his little printing of what he wanted for dinner the next day.
What about the time that he was upset with you and he left you?
Dad was traveling a lot, and he came one night, and it wasn't even that big a deal as far as I was concerned. I had just told him no about something. And when I went to bed, I went in my room, and he had about 1,000 pieces of paper that said "I hate you" on them. He had them in my underwear drawer, in all the drawers, taped to the mirror in the bathroom, under my pillow. And I got so overwhelmed with the "I hate yous" that I just broke down and cried. I'll let Dad tell the story of his 8th grade shenanigans with the books.
Oh. Well, we got a call one night from from parents of a classmate he has, and they said that their son Jimmy was coming home with every night he had a joke, and he says they weren't really real dirty jokes, but he said they just weren't very nice jokes, especially for an 8th grader to be telling. And when they quizzed him after this happened a couple nights in a row, they asked him where he was getting these jokes. He said, well, Ted Reniker had a book of dirty jokes. And we said, well, okay, we would look into it, take care of it. And I had these 2 books, and I think they were called Dirty Joke Books, but they weren't.
We're off color.
They were off-color jokes. And I had them in our closet on a shelf up high. You couldn't see them, you know, with the naked eye just walking in the closet. Well, we went upstairs. I went upstairs and went in the closet, and both those books were gone. Oh, we knew somehow he had found them up there. So the next day when he came home from school, mother asked him about said, where are the books or something like that.
I said, do you have something you want to tell me?
Okay.
And he said, the books? I said, the books. And typical for that age, I mean, the image is so great because here's a kid looking for Christmas presents.
That's right, that's what it was.
So here he is, you know, a hallmark of childhood, searching for the Christmas presents.
Found something better, found a couple
And
dirty joke
instead found the joke books that Dad's secretary years before had given him for like his 30th birthday. And so anyway, then Dad got home, and then we pursued it further, and the books were at school in his desk, and this was a Friday, and I was afraid that the teachers, they were going to, you know, pick the desks up and move them to clean and all that. I was afraid that they would be discovered. What Ted didn't tell us till he was an adult was he didn't just share these with people, he was renting them out for $0.25.
So he has a history of off-color publications. What about when you were going through that drive-through?
Oh, he was about 7, and it was after Sunday church, and Uncle Carl was coming over to help Dad put up paneling on one of the walls in the family room. And we didn't have any beer. So I went through the drive-through, 3 blocks from our house to get some beer. And I had known from about a month earlier that Ted knew what a Playboy magazine was because we were driving home from Grandma and Grandpa Renniker's, and we drove by a United Dairy Farmer, and he said, pull in, I need you to buy me a magazine. And we said, what magazine? And he said, Playboy. And I said, Playboy? Yeah, Chris Bame's dad's got some down in the basement, and we look at them all the time. I said, and I'm trying to, be adult with him. And I said, now, Ted, what's the big deal about Playboy? He said, they have naked girls. And I said, well, yeah, but you've seen me naked. And he goes, Mom, these girls are pretty. I said, okay. So that was, at least that had happened. But as I pull into this drive-through, Ted starts, I want you to buy me a Playboy. Buy me a Playboy. Get back in the car, Ted. He was getting out of the back seat to go over to the magazine rack. Get back in the car, Ted. So I had said that to him several times, and he kept pleading. And finally, the kid at the drive-thru says, Ted, get back in the car. So he finally did, and we pulled off. And we really didn't hear anything about Playboy after that. I'm sure he got a hold of him somehow.
The funniest thing about the Dirty Joke book, though, is I don't know if to this day, have we ever told Ted whose parents called us? I think he knows that some parents call us now, but we didn't tell him that till after he was married. So he never knew how we found out that he had the books. How did you guys find out? We said, parents got ways of finding out things.
So who was it?
I'm not going to tell you. If we haven't told him, I'm not going to tell you.
You just said you didn't tell him until after he was married.
No, that a parent.
That a parent had called and told us.
Do you remember who the parents were?
Oh, yeah.
So who was it?
We're not telling.
What are you, worried of retribution at this point in your life?
Yeah.
Just as soon he didn't know. It's nice to have one up on him. Always nice to have one.